Hello, and thanks for turning up to listen. Do you ever wish your software could talk to each other? Like actually have a conversation, listen and talk and share information? Well, they can talk to each other. That's what APIs do, and it's way less scary than you think. Let's get into it. I'm Damien from Black Badger Software Solutions, and today we're gonna break into that scary box called APIs. It's that three-letter tech word that you've heard probably 100 times and always wondered what it means. And here's a tip, it's not what I've got on the board. That's what I commonly get, that's not it. I'm gonna explain. Now here's the deal. APIs are what lets computers and programs talk to each other behind the scenes. And no, you don't have to be a programmer to understand it, and you don't have to be a coder to be able to use them. It's not that hard. And I'm gonna show you some of the differences and how to get into it. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what an API is, how they work, and how you can use them in your business to make your workloads less, to make your repetitive actions fewer, to make it so that data moves from one place to another without you having to do any extra work. Sound good? Let's start. So first I'm gonna start off with the definition of the actual acronym, API. For whatever reason, it gets commonly misunderstood and commonly misnamed. The most common misname, the misnomer, is Application Protocol Interface. That's wrong. For whatever reason, that word protocol throws people off. It's not protocol, actually. It's programming. Application Programming Interface. It's that simple. Now, what do those three words mean? Because let's break that down even further. What is an application? So the first word, application, what are we talking about? What is an application? This is a program. This is something that you use to get things done on your computer or on your phone, right? This is a helpful app like your Google Maps app is an application. Microsoft Word is an application. The games that you play, they're applications. So programming, second part of this, application programming interface. So this is the written instructions that are needed to get things done in a computer. It's that simple. It's just the writing that you have to do to, like, if you could write it in plain text, you would say, hey, computer, when my friend wants to send me a message, he's gonna write a message on a board over there and I want you to grab that and give it to me over here. It's called an email, right? That would be the message. That'd be the program. He'd say, go grab it over there. When he writes it and he puts my name on it, grab it and bring it over to me so I can read it. That's programming. Programming is done in special codes and languages. We're not gonna get into that today because that is a bit more complex, but that's what it is. Now, the third part of it is the interface. So what is an interface? An interface is simply a place where things can get together to connect. It's places where you go to talk. Like, I mean, in real life, in the interface here, I'm in an office. This is where I come and I meet with people and I talk to people and they come into my office and I speak to people in person on my computer. There's a separate interface, like, you know, the Zoom call. There's an interface right there. That's where things come to meet, right? So an application programming interface, all this is the language and the place where the instructions are written for things to talk to each other in software. So if you've got a piece of software over here, like, I don't know, you're called Google Maps, right? There's a piece of software and you're on a phone. Now, Google Maps actually exists somewhere else. That data for that is somewhere else. How does it know that you want to know where to go? There's an API. It's literally, your phone has instructions on it that says, I'm here, go over there and tell them that I'm there and I want to get from there to there. And it pulls the data and brings it right back to you. That's an API. It's just the application programming interface, right? That's the back-end stuff you don't see that tells them how to talk. I mean, some simple examples of this would be things like your weather app. The information for what the weather's like outside is not held on your phone or on your computer. It's held on a computer somewhere else. Now, what has to happen is that your computer has to say, hey, I'm located at this spot. I want to know what the weather's like here. So your computer sends a message out and says, hey, what's the weather like in Tampa Bay? And it just goes, great, the weather in Tampa Bay is here and the forecast is this. It grabs all the data relevant to where you are because that's what an API does. It just goes and grabs the data and brings it back. That's an API. Another example would be Google Maps in Uber, right? You're in a car, you're driving, your driver's driving you. How does he know where to go? You literally selected on your phone, you said, I want to go here. It went to a computer somewhere else via API. The computer over there said, hey, this guy wants to go from the airport to his house. So here's the data from here to here. It sends it over there and it sends it over to the Uber driver. Uber driver then goes, great, I'm going to pick him up at this spot. And all this data is going in the back. And that's the API. All it is going, hey, I'm going to grab his information, his location, and I'm going to send it over there. And then that's going to send it over to the driver. It's that simple. That's an API. So another example would be a system like PayPal, right? Where you want to pay for something online, you literally just input your information once and it's secure, it's safely and securely stored, and they talk in such a way that it's secure. And that connection right there where they talk and it goes, hey, Joe Smith, I want to buy this thing over here, right? I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm buying something online, and it goes, great, it's $5. And I send the authorization over there to PayPal, and PayPal sends the authorization over there. That back end where it talks in a secure way, that's the API. You know, another example would be like, you can log into certain games with Facebook. How does that even work, right? You just go, you push the Facebook button and it goes, well, because there's actually data stored in your computer, and then it goes to Facebook and it authorizes it and goes, great. This is a real person. He's going to log in here with all these credentials. That back end talking, that's Facebook's API connection that allows that to happen, to make it easier for you to get into stuff using their stored information. So now the question is, how do APIs get made and how does it apply to you? You're a business owner, you've got a manufacturing business, or you've got an agency, or you have a professional services business, you're an accounting business. How does an API help you? Why do you need to understand it? Well, because it's everything to do with speeding up your workflow. First off, let's look at the example of the two different ways that it can be done, the ways that you can get into it and the way that you can use it in your business. So first off is a custom API integration. You've probably heard this. This is the way it's been done for a really long time. So what does custom mean? It means it's specially made just for you. So in a custom integration situation, I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to connect two things that don't normally connect. Like you want to connect your QuickBooks with your Monday.com. For whatever reason. You want to push contacts from your QuickBooks because you've got your contact store there and you want to make them in Monday. Now, one option is you can write a custom API. What that means is that you actually have to write all of the code and the programming that allows those two systems to talk to each other. Now, the great thing about that is that you can write whatever you want. As long as the API endpoints are there, and those are the points where they can connect, right, between QuickBooks and Monday, if there's an endpoint here and an endpoint here, they can connect. Those endpoints do different things, but as long as they're there, you can write the code to make them connect, and you can get them to do the things that you want, which is excellent. A custom integration allows you to do much more. It's a much more versatile way of getting the job done. Now, the downside is it takes a lot more effort. You've got to write the code, but also you have to write in code for things that you wouldn't necessarily think that you need to do. Like if there's an error in your code, or if there's an error in your API, you write it and you set it to trigger when a customer is created here, create the customer record over here, right? And let's say for some reason it doesn't work, but it doesn't work is that it didn't show up there, right? Wouldn't it be great to get a notification that said, hey, there was an error and here's the reason why there was an error? With a custom API integration, you've got to write all that stuff in there for the error logging so you can trace down why that might have not worked. Or when if you want reports to come out of that, how many times did it run? All these kinds of things. You've got to write the code that it gives you all that information. Super versatile, and you have to know exactly what you want to get out of it. Now, the other side is if you use a third-party integration tool. Now, this has become super popular in the last 10 years. You've heard of these platforms like Make.com and Zapier and MindCloud and Workato. These are all big platforms, and they've spent a lot of money and time to build the platforms that allow these things to connect. Like in this case, we're talking about QuickBooks and Monday.com. You can go to one of these platforms, and what they've done is they've pre-built all that basic stuff we talked about, the rules about error logging, or the rules about counting how many times it worked and how many times it didn't work, or to visually display in a simple way for a non-programmer. They've built it so you can visually look at it without having to read code. You can visually look at it, go, cool, here's QuickBooks and here's Monday.com, and I can see that I want QuickBooks when a customer is created here, if I wanted to push the data here. It's a visual representation that shows you that. Almost all these platforms these days have that. They're called no-code or low-code platforms. No-code meaning you don't have to write any code. Low-code meaning you've got to write, or at least be able to see and recognize some of the code to manipulate it. Now, this is excellent. It basically means that you as a business owner can go to one of these platforms and go, hey, I've got my CRM in Zoho or my CRM in Pipedrive, and I need to connect that to my field services software. When a customer is created here, I need all the customer data to go into Jobber so that when my guy goes on the field, he can enter information into Jobber and it then pushes it back into my CRM. So in my CRM, everybody in the office can see what happened out in the field. Okay, that's simple in theory, and these days it's actually simple in practice. If you go to, say, Workato or Make.com or MindCloud, you can go in there and just say, I want to connect my QuickBooks to Jobber, and I want it to do this. And it will build out and give you the instructions on how to do these things. It can be that simple. Some of them are more complex than others, but mostly they're that simple. All you have to do is go, great, I want to connect this. You can literally type it in natural language. Go, I want to connect this, and I want it to do this. It'll build it out, and then you might have to check it to make sure all the fields are connecting the way you want, right? But it'll build it out. The downside of those ones there is that you're limited to what those platforms provide you as options. For example, QuickBooks might have 200 different actions, 200 different fields and things that you can, that you might want to pull data from to put it somewhere else. But if you go to say Zapier, right, they might only have the top 50 most common ones in there. And that's great, but what if you need that, 100, item number 102 to pull a specific invoice number by this certain date, and they don't actually provide that data to Zapier. Now you're stuck because Zapier can't do what you want, right? You might want to then go check a different platform that might have that. Or get one of the really flexible ones like MindCloud, where they'll actually just add all the actions for you and get that done like in no time. Alternatively, if you don't do one of those, well, then you have to go the custom route. Honestly, for most people, 99% of people these days, I would say, these platforms are better than going custom, right? They're just gonna be better. They save a huge amount of time, a huge amount of effort, right? You don't have to waste all the time programming all the extra stuff like the rules for error logging, which you wouldn't even know you needed until after you built it and went, oh, it didn't work perfectly. Why, right? You don't need to build all that. You don't need to build in messaging, additional messaging for what happens, who finds out about things, or the reports that come out of it. How many times did it run successfully? Which parts did it fail at? Or where's the data being pushed? Because in the custom route, you can't see any of that visually, it's all in code. So these platforms, I swear, for 99% of people, you're just gonna be like, great, I'm gonna go into a platform, pick one and go, I wanna connect my Monday.com to my Calendly, and I just want, when a contact is created in Calendly, to create a contact in my Monday, and for the appointment to be built in there and for it to push into my Outlook calendar, right? You can literally type all that in there and it'll go great. It'll grab the application, the app for Calendly and Monday and Outlook, and it'll be like, great, bang, 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 all of it automatically gets pushed across, and it's super simple. So the next time you hear API, don't panic. Just think connection. That's all it is. It's that invisible glue that connects all of the apps that you use on a daily basis. You're using them every single day. If you've got a phone, you're using it hundreds of times a day and you don't even know it. You're already a pro. So whether you're automating workflows or syncing tools or building a new platform, understanding APIs is the leverage you need to connect them all together. It's gonna make everything more powerful. Make sure you get that tool under your belt. I'm Damien with Black Badger Software Solutions, and I help businesses connect the dots behind the scenes with APIs. So if this helped demystify the tech just a little bit, do me a favor and give it a like, give us a comment, let us know, give me some feedback on if this is good or bad, or if you want more or less information. And follow me if you just want more no fluff content like this, where I just get straight to the point and demystify this stuff. Now go unlock those automations. Your future will thank you. Oh, do it! Oh.